morning and welcome, Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason live on this Wednesday. Happy hump day, I guess. The fourth day of October. And man, October starting out like September. A lot of selling pressure. It's continuing, at least right now. We're watching the bond market last night. The 10-year note getting to 4.85. I know that doesn't sound that high, but man, that's a huge move in just a matter of a few days. It's off of that as we got some, I guess, weaker numbers out of the U.S. To help the Federal Reserve a little bit. Unfortunately, I'm going to tell you, not weak enough. Kaiser strike has started. The 75,000 healthcare workers walking off the job today. We'll keep you posted on everything that you need to know. 800-951-0592. That is our toll-free number. Of course, the physical delivery of wealth insurance, gold and silver. And I will just say this right now. Don't let it pass you by. We've had a great pullback here. Prices are coming in nicely. Silver premiums rising again. So 2 days in a row now, Silver Eagle premiums rising. We've got some great specials coming up for you, but make sure you take advantage here. allamericangold.com is the website. And Jason, we had, it's first week of the month, so we're going to get jobs. Today we had ADP, private sector jobs, much lower than expected. This was a September number, 89,000 jobs. So that's, I guess if you want to say, put that in the good column, right? I mean, normally when we see jobs slowing, we're like, well, that's not good. But Wall Street's going to take it as good, I think, because it gives the opportunity that maybe the Fed doesn't have to raise interest rates anymore. We'll have to wait and see. But, yeah, that number came in lower than expected. We also had data out about oil inventories. Now, oil inventories were down again. Cushing, Oklahoma, we're going to call it flat. They really didn't move about 100,000 barrels. But that was it. But the number that got them excited anyway was the gasoline number. So we had about a 4 million barrel decline in oil inventories, about a 4 million barrel increase in gasoline. It's only one number. So you got to say, well, because these things, next week we could get gasoline down 10 million barrels. You don't know. But I will say this, when you take the last 4 weeks of 2023, and you look at the same weeks last year, Jason, we're looking at about 1 million barrels of gasoline a week less consumption. So maybe these higher prices have started to have an effect. It appears that way. We're going to have to see a little more data because, gasoline inventories went down last week. So we'll have to see here. By the way, crude oil production remains right near the top, almost 13 million barrels a day being produced. Rig counts, and this is kind of what I'm falling again. So my guess is as we get into winter, since there's less rigs out there, I'm assuming some of this oil production is going to come off. But it does look like, at least to me, that the higher gas prices got people driving less.
That's exactly what I was thinking, too. People don't have money just for everyday necessities. So if you can avoid running, if your car gets 30 miles a gallon, if you can, take 60 miles off your tank this week, that saves you, almost $10, $8, whatever your gas prices are. And, less car trips. Hey, maybe we'll wait till a couple of months or maybe 6 months from now before we take that family car trip. Things like that, Joe. People cut back. People are cutting back. You have to when you're squeezing every penny. So, not a surprise to hear that the usage of gasoline has gone down. That's Again, I think we're going to see that with a lot of consumer items, Joe. A lot of people turning the heat down in the homes. A lot of people not driving. A lot of people not buying stuff at Walmart. Things like that.
Yeah, it could be one of those. ADP, as I said, 89,000 jobs. They're expecting 150. It was the lowest jobs addition going back to January of 2021. So there was a couple. I get, and again, we'll call it a good thing. But yesterday, the JOLTS number, which is, hey, people posting job openings, they said that shot up by hundreds of thousands. I want to say, 500,000 more job opening posts, but yet ADP said hirings really didn't happen. And it's hard to know. Just 1 month of data here, it's hard to know. A lot of revisions here, but at least for a day, we can talk about, okay, interest rates at least today, and obviously the day's not over, but it looks like they're not going to go up today. And we haven't had that in at least, the last 5-10 trading days in a row. The 10-year note has been higher. Right now, the 10-year note at 4.76. Like I said last night, got to 4.85. It's interesting, Jason. Be careful what you wish for. That's my fear here. Be careful what you wish for, because all of a sudden, 89,000 jobs can turn into negative 89,000 jobs just like that. When we get back, another currency starting to have big problems. I'll tell you who that is. And then all of you Bitcoiners and blockchain, stay tuned. I got information for you as well. Eight 800-951-0592. Joe and Jason, Patriot Radio News Hour. A quick look in at the markets. The Dow is down. Here's the good news. It's off the lows, down about 50 points here, a little over 50 points, 32,900. The S&P, they've been back and forth, but up right now 4 points. The NASDAQ is up 76 points. Crude oil's off $3, right? And again, we told you why there. Gold, depending on where you look, I'm going to tell you gold's down $1, but in New York. But I want to say in London, gold's up like $4. But anyway, 1923, 1924 in gold. Silver, 21.11 right now. But if you're like, you know what? I don't like how this is shaking out. I don't like it at all. I don't like what interest rates are doing. I don't like what mortgage rates are doing, auto loan rates are doing, refi rates. I don't like what's happening in commercial real estate. I don't like what's happening in the yen. I don't like the Chinese property market. I'm going to tell you about another major currency. Wow, this one may be the biggest shock of them all coming up next. But, hey, you know what? I don't want my money in the bank either, and I don't necessarily want to be in Wall Street. Check out our friends at YRefi. Up to 10.25% returns. Guess what? It really doesn't care. I'll be honest with you. The Dow could go to 40,000. They wouldn't care. Go to 20,000. They wouldn't care. Interest rates could stay here. They go to 5%. Rick Santelli, they can go to 13%. None of that really matters here. And it's the greater good, too. It's actually something you can invest in and feel good about. Check them out. InvestYRefi.com. That's the word invest, the letter Y, REFY.com. Or call them at 888-YRefi24. Jason, speaking of mortgages, we had data out on housing and purchases of homes tumbling again, down 6% week over week. This morning, a 30-year mortgage hit the highest levels going back to August of 2000. So now mortgages are at a 23-year high. A mind-blowing 7.88% on a mortgage as the interest rates have shot up dramatically. Home purchases down to levels now that we haven't seen since the mid-90s, and refinancing, that is, well, not that there's a lot of it going on, but totally collapsing here. And the mortgage industry, they began tracking something in 2018 for the first time, which was declining your mortgage or your refi because of income. That number hit an all-time high last week. Record numbers of banks declining people, Jason, whether it was a mortgage or a refinance because of income. Obviously now, right, hey, you got to pay 7.88%, where last week you only had to pay 7.3%. That was enough to get a lot more people to not be able to qualify.
Yeah, Joe, that's for sure. And as I listen to you speak, I'm guessing one aspect of borrowing money that may have picked up with what's going on is I'll bet a lot of people are going to their local banks and getting small loans. And, who wants to refinance that mortgage, right? And so I'll bet there's a lot of personal financing going on if people really need it. But there's only so much you can do of that before you have to move to a new home or somebody's first-time buyer, and those rates are high, Joe. I mean, and I don't think they're as high as they're going to be. I think you're going to see it a lot higher. I think home buying is going to be very, very much more unaffordable as we continue, Joe. It's going to get worse.
Yeah, I think that now we got another problem right now. Now all of a sudden, the home builders are probably going to slow way down because they're selling them. I know all the home builders in this town, which have been pretty, I would say, pretty strong. Now they're all offering the first 2 years super low rates for 2 years before it jumps back up again. Be careful. That's all I'm going to say. Be careful out there. But yesterday we talked about, okay, there's problems in the market. We're starting to see there's liquidity problems, and we were speculating. Where could all of this be? Well, data out today from the ECB, despite the fact that they hiked rates again, according to data from SWIFT. So SWIFT is the system that the Americans and our allies, I mean, most of the world uses SWIFT. SWIFT is a payment cross-border. So in other words, the U.S. wants to buy something from China, they'll use SWIFT as the payment, right? That's how they'll send the payments. And according to their data, this is really, really hard to imagine. The transactions done in euros in January of this year, 38% of all SWIFT transactions was done in euros. At the end of August, and we don't even have September's numbers yet, at the end of August, that number was down to 23%. By the way, those of you thinking, well, how about the dollar? Well, I guess the dollar hung in there. Right? They put it this way. The dollar didn't pick up any of that, which was kind of surprising to me. I think we kind of know where a lot of this went, a lot of this now being done with China. Now, does that mean that China grew, this 15%? No. A lot of that can be, right? Obviously, Europe, the Eurozone, those economies have slowed down, so some of it is just the slowing down, but this is a percentage. So everybody slowed down. You would think the percentage would be a little bit higher, but Jason, this is kind of shocking how big of a drop that the euro has seen. And when we see this in payments, we talk about, Rick Santelli posed a question yesterday. who's going to buy all this debt? And right now, countries are saying, not us. Japan, China, net sellers. Now the Eurozone, apparently there's been a lot of Euro selling happening that we just haven't seen, right? Obviously we live here, so we don't follow this very much. But a dramatic drop in the use of the world globally through the SWIFT system.
Yeah, before 9/11, Saddam Hussein was going to start using euros. Muammar Gaddafi wanted to go to his golden dinar. He had these Middle Eastern countries that were going to go off the dollar, and they were going to start pushing that. And I think there was going to be a lot of success, and so those things were handled. And so the euro was one of those. Hey, we can use any currency if we want to get off the dollar. We could try using somebody else's currency, and then usually that currency, whoever issues that currency, they're not going to be too unhappy with that. And so the euro was always kind of like one of those defiant currencies that some of these small nations would go to get away from the dollar. Well, that's just not what they're doing now, Joe. So on top of everything that you mentioned, a lot of these other nations are thinking Bitcoin or digital currencies, or now it's the yuan, just use Chinese money, or let's just use any currencies. And so I think all of that, a little bit of that extra emphasis on, hey, to use the euro instead of the dollar, that's all gone, Joe. And plus, let's just face it, the Eurozone economically is looking worse, I think, than America, or at least just as bad.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting thing. It's never good, though, to see these big moves like this. That's when you really get to the precipice, right, where all of a sudden, right, well, it's gradual at first, then it's all of a sudden, and then the Italians or the Spaniards, maybe it's Greece again, or Ireland, Portugal, right, any of those former pig nations, they go to sell some euro debt and nobody's there. Right? Yep. Nobody going to show it. Hey, I don't want that. I don't need that. I'm gonna trade in a different currency, and then all of a sudden you have a contagion problem. And a lot of people, let's not forget about the digital things. And we know this is where they want us to go now. I don't think anybody doubts that. I do think there's a lot of people out there that just can't get their arms around. They're not going to do what Joe and Jason are saying. They're not going to track you, right? They don't care how many rolls of toilet paper we buy, or how much gas we buy, or how much red meat we buy. And I'm going to tell you right now, this was out of Bitcoin magazine, and there's a ton of court cases going on right now, and all kinds of different things. When it comes to, and I'll just say Bitcoin, digital currencies. But when I say Bitcoin, I'm talking all of them: Ethereum, Ripple, Dogecoin, whatever. All of those tokens, if you will. And I want people to understand: here's what the U.S. government is arguing in court right now, and it all has to do with privacy. And the U.S. government is saying that all of this blockchain or what they call chain analysis needs to be, the U.S. government needs access to that. We need to know what people are buying. This is what they're arguing in courts right now. The U.S., if you want to look it up, the U.S. versus Sterling Gov, Sterlin Gov, saying that by not having visibility, in other words, by us not knowing who the user of the spending is, jeopardizes numerous law enforcement investigations and impacts the effectiveness of law enforcement tracing tools, and it's enabling the development of criminal countermeasures to blockchain analysis. In other words, hey, we need to know the code. We need to have the source, because without it, all this are going. First of all, it's stopping us from investigating the bad people, and also they're working on ways to make it impossible for us to get access. So we need to have access right now. And Jason, this is something where, again, I think it makes it very clear where our government sits when it comes to privacy of digital money.
Yeah, there will be no privacy. I don't know how. Yeah, and when anything has a digital number attached to it, that means it's stored somewhere, and it's for anybody to look at, Joe. And digital is the opposite of privacy. Digital is transparency. In some things you want more transparency, like your federal government, and I would like to have a digital government, I guess, with more transparency. I'd like to see exactly what they're doing when they're doing it. I mean, really, we should have that. We're the ones that elect them, but digital is not privacy. It's the opposite of privacy. That's what I like about gold, Joe. Gold is between two people, right? The buyer and the seller.
800-951-0592. Jason and I, we're coming right back after the break. (800-951-0592). Joe and Jason, Patriot Radio News Hour here on this Wednesday. This is it, the final day on $10 Liberties. We're just running out of available product here. $1,035. I got to get my sheet. I know I should be, yes, $1,035 on the $10 gold Liberties. Silver Eagles, I told you, the premium, second day in a row now, premiums have risen on Silver Eagles. They're still, here's the good news, silver's down a quarter. Well, that just allowed me to keep the price the same. They're still $575. Silver's at just over $21. This is an outrageously, it's a screaming buy here. I do have 5-ounce silver bars. I'm going to put them on sale for $125. 5 ounces of silver for only $125 at 800-951-0592. If you're brand new, just say, hey, I want the special. Now, today, the girls will be like, well, which one would you like? You may say, all of them. I want the gold. I want the silver. I want the bars. Then we're going to ask you one hard question. How many? It really is. It's so simple to order from us. We give you a trade number when you order. If you're in Phoenix or if you're up in northern Colorado and you want to pick up your product, you can absolutely do that. You can pay and pick up. If you live far away, maybe you live in another state, or, hey, I just don't live that close to where your offices are, you can just put a check in the mail. If you want to use your credit card, you can. We're still charging 2% for right now, a 2% credit card fee. But you're all locked in. And I think today, this week's a great week to lock in, I think. It could go a little lower here, but you're buying nowhere near the top here. Trying to catch tops or bottoms, way too difficult. And if we ship it to you, we charge a flat $35. Obviously, if you order one 5-ounce silver bar, we're not going to charge you $35. We're just not going to do that. But we do need to cover our costs there. But call us, 800-951-0592, and get your wealth insurance put away. Because I'm going to tell you right now, I'm reading more about the government here. Listen to this, Jason. Very much kind of sounding like the Patriot Act in a lot of things, saying that the protective order, they're trying to seal the disclosure, right? They don't want us to know what they really want. But in the latest release of documents, the U.S. government is now trying to define software developed to protect individual financial privacy on the blockchain is adversarial and contends that the disclosure is essentially providing a way for people to circumvent the law. This is the argument that they're making in court right now, saying anybody who doesn't want us to know what they're buying is really a criminal, and they're going to be engaging in criminal activity. You know all the ones. Ready? Drug trafficking. Oh, where have we heard that before? Terrorist, right? Terrorist organizations or circumventing law enforcement, and it's simply not being made in good faith. In other words, people that want to hide this information from us are not operating in good faith.
I'll tell you what, if they all agree to these demands that they want to see every single purchase, as soon as every elected official of Washington D.C. has a name on a let's just say a website you can go to, and every single buy and sell purchase of every elected official is on a sheet that I could just go to on a website and look at it. As soon as I see exactly what Joe Biden's buying and selling every single day, and what Donald Trump is buying and selling every day if he's president again, or all of our Congress people, then it's like, all right, fine, you can look at what I'm buying and selling. But if I can't look at what our elected officials are looking at as easy as they want to look at what we're buying and selling, no deal, right, Joe? I don't want people looking at what I'm buying and selling. It's none of their business. That's what freedom's about.
It absolutely is none of their business. But again, I think this is something where we're starting to see, right, how our government is really positioning themselves when it comes to digital currencies. And again, I think there will be some that survive. I think the anybody that thinks they're going to be able to maintain privacy and still use these, I think they're kidding themselves, and privacy will not exist when our central bank digital currency comes up. I mean, just look at what the government's saying. And essentially, I will guarantee it, the Fed coin or whatever you want to call it, they're going to have a back door. Remember Apple used to have that back door? Right? Oh, we got a back door that the FBI and the CIA can use. That's exactly what's going to happen with this digital currency. Law enforcement's going to be able to use that back door and know all of this stuff. This is why, you got to raise awareness. We got to try to stop it from happening. But, Jason, I think that's already passed. I think we're past the point of no return. But this is why you got to have more gold and silver put away if you want to do anything. And believe me, the rules are coming. You think gas is expensive now? Wait till the digital currency comes out. You haven't seen expensive. You haven't seen expensive at the grocery store, especially on the items that they're going to say, you know what, well, that's just not a good item. Cows are bad, right? Chickens are bad. Hogs are bad. Gasoline is bad. Coal is bad. Natural gas is bad. Jason, they're going to be able to regulate all of this stuff.
And you had mentioned earlier with our silver special, those silver bars for $125 each, Silver Eagles, $10 Liberties at $10.35. You had mentioned, well, we don't know, it could go down some more. It doesn't really matter. It's really about how many ounces you own. And if you're really worried about, well, I want to buy it when it goes a little lower, but you don't know when it's going to happen, there's an easy solution to that. You buy the special today. When it goes lower, you buy it when it goes lower. And you keep buying, because at some point it's going to stop going lower, it's going to bounce up, and you're still going to want to buy more as it's going up. So you might as well buy it when it's lower and going lower, and then when it goes up, you're still going to, here's the thing, Joe, how many people buy when it's going up? It's the too late train that builds up steam. I'd like to be a little less busy when it starts going up, and then people are going crazy, heading for the entryway to buy as much as they can. We have customers coming out our ears. Some of you guys can buy it now when we're a little slower. I'm all up for that, Joe. I'm all up for getting a lot of customers taken care of in a real sweet time to do it.
It's hard to convince them, right? This is when we should be the busiest now instead of when the crisis is happening. But it's hard. It never works that way. We'll be back right after the break. 800-951-0592. Joe and Jason, Patriot Radio News Hour here on a Wednesday. The $10 Liberties, 1,035. And then on the silver side, we got silver is $5.75, but these 5-ounce silver bars at $125. I just looked during the break. We're back to 88 ounces of silver for an ounce of gold. That's how many ounces of silver you would need for 1 ounce of gold. It goes back, and everyone has different numbers that they like to use as to what is normal. A lot of people say 50. I'm a little higher. I think 65. Since we've gone off the gold standard anyway, seems to be that. But, go back when gold was 800. Silver hit $50. I mean, it was 16 to 1. Here it's at 88 to 1. It's not the highest level ever. The highest level ever actually happened during COVID. We got above 100 to 1. But Jason, this is the highest level before that was in the low 90s. So we're almost back to, near record level highs. This tells you silver's extremely undervalued here. It's had a move of more than 10% to the downside, maybe closing in on 15% to the downside just over the last 7 trading days. This is a huge opportunity to pick up silver at a historically low level.
Yeah, I'm a little different. I think silver should be 20 to 25 to 1. That's where I think it should be. It makes a lot more sense. Out of the ground, I think it's down to 12 to 1 or 14 to. It's gotten really, as far as coming out of the ground, it's really below that, even that 16 to 1, which is what William Jennings Bryan and the free silver guys of the late 1800s wanted. Yes, I don't know when silver will run. A lot of people are buying silver instead of gold. Specifically for how much room silver has to run. I don't know if that's going to happen over this next cycle, the next few years, next decade, but it's going to happen. And I've seen people prognosticate, Joe, that silver will be more than gold at some point in the future. It seems like a fantasy, but when you hear them actually talk about why it's going to do that, it sure seems possible. I never thought I'd see rhodium do what it did, was it like a year ago, and go to almost, $30,000 an ounce, now back down to $3,500. Silver could do that, Joey. I mean, we don't control these things. We just have to play along.
Well, yeah, silver, obviously the use, right, the industrial use for silver. In talking about them, we don't really talk enough about the other metals, but right now, silver and platinum is where I would live. Jason talked about rhodium down to $3,450. It was $30,000 not that long ago. I still don't like rhodium here. I don't. Palladium at 1,130. Palladium is way down. I mean, shoot, palladium. I think a year ago, palladium was like almost $2,000. That down to $1,140. I still don't like it that at these levels. But I think platinum is probably the most undervalued, followed by silver. The only thing with silver is, right, it takes up a lot more room than gold would do. People don't realize how small gold. $1 million in gold. Your wife could put it in one of her purses. Absolutely. And still put. All right, so you'd have to take some of her stuff out there. I don't know if you guys, if your wife's like my wife's like MacGyver in her purse. Like, I'm almost shocked if something comes up and my wife doesn't say, "Oh, I think I got that in my purse," right? I mean, short of bringing out a hammer and a nail, my wife's got everything in that thing. But you can fit $1 million of gold in your wife's purse, $1 million in silver. Man, you better have a really big safe to store it all, and probably a forklift to move it, Jason.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, it's as the dollars devalue, that it'll take less and less of your purse to put that $1 million in. So it'll be the your change pocket pretty soon. But something I didn't get a chance to mention, and I don't look at the debt clock on a daily basis. I do look at it a lot. And you may have mentioned this on Monday, Joe. It might have slipped by me, but the government avoided the shutdown over the weekend, and then on Monday the U.S. debt went up $300 billion. It's amazing. Not quite, but $300 billion. That's almost a third of the entire Reagan debt, which hit a trillion for the first time during his years. I mean, was it 45 days till this happens again? What's going to happen the day after they fix that one? 400 billion?
Well, let me tell you, because you started talking, I'm like, what is Jason talking about? Because I sat here and told you, gosh, the debt went up another $50 billion, 33 trillion, 150 billion. That was just the other day. Guess what it is today? 33 trillion, $444 billion, jumping $300 billion overnight. And get ready. Listen, the government needs money. It needs it badly. The higher these rates go, the more they have to borrow. We borrowed just the last quarter that just ended. We borrowed $1 trillion in a single quarter. Well, if you did the math, if you have to do that every quarter, that's $4 trillion. We're not going to be there yet. But, Jason, I'm going to tell you right now, I think fiscal year 2024, our debt for the year is going to be much closer to an all-time record high than most people imagine. I think we're going to be real close to $3 trillion in 2025 and beyond. I think every year after, we will break records on how much debt needs to be issued. 800-951-0592. Jason and I, we're going to wrap it up right after the break. (800-951-0592). Joe and Jason, Patriot News Hour. Yeah, I mean, we're going to be at 34 trillion before the end of the year. It's crazy how fast. How about this? Nomura just came out, said that the U.S. stock market is closing in on a come-to-Jesus moment. That's never a good thing. Societe Generale this morning said that the markets look like another 87-style crash. Remember what happened to Japan in 87? They're still not back there. They're still not back. I mean, we're closing in on what? Almost 40 years, pretty close, closing in on 40 years later. And then their stock market still isn't where it was in 87. Jason's been saying this for a while. He thinks we're shaping up for a decade, 2 decades before we get back. And Jason, I got to ask you, we hit, 37,000 not that long ago. Is that the number? Do you think that
Yeah.
we're going to be waiting that long to get back there?
There's always monkeying around that these financial wizards can do to inflate, falsely to get it above that number. So I wouldn't put it past the financial wizards to try to prop Biden up next year to get him elected and have a heat up rally next year to get it to that record high so he can say that in some sort of a debate. But other than that sort of situation, I think that's it. And I think we stay here for a very long time. We stay below that number. So I'll give myself a little out on the political season, because presidents love to have talking points, and it just takes a few multi-billionaire, trillionaire type companies to just puff up the markets for a short time. But I'm starting to think they're having trouble doing that now, Joe. I think the 8 stocks, so to speak, aren't big enough to do it possibly. But yeah, I think we're looking at 20 years, 10 to 20 years of being below that high.
Well, again, it's gradual until it's suddenly, and I agree, I feel it. You can feel it, right? You can feel it. like there's a day of reckoning coming. I don't know when, I don't know how, and I don't know what the cause of it's going to be, but it won't really matter. There's a lot of fragility in the system. You know, we talked about how the banks, I mean, they're in such a bad spot, just loaded down with a lot of debt that's paying them 3% or less, and yet they've got to pay 4 and 5% just to keep deposits. It's not a great situation whatsoever. And now, you know, $300 billion in a day, we shouldn't be surprised. We see these big moves all the time, but I mean, we're halfway to 34 trillion. We just got to 33. We just got there.
I know.
We're
we
at
could hit 40
100.
next year. Things go bad enough, Joe, you can see 40 next year. I mean, think about it. It just takes bad things to happen. I mean, if every 45 days the government shuts down, if every 45 days they have to discuss this and then it goes up a $500 billion, how fast could that go to 40 trillion in 1 year?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, already, you get born, every baby born. Oh, there's 100,000 you owe. Every baby in the U.S. right now. That's every citizen. He needs to write a check for $100,000. Yeah, every taxpayer, who knows what? 250, 260, 300,000. Yeah, good luck with that. 800-951-0592. Jason and I were coming right back with the half-empty cup.